Hi there, welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 for our classic Pooh album. Okay, part 4. So far we've constructed a cover, a element for the front cover, we decorated that a little bit. We've constructed a page, we've decorated that for the main part. And today we're going to work on the element for the back cover. And I'll be honest with you, I've been like putting it off because I'm a bit nervous for filming this. It takes a little bit more steps, and well, if you have been watching my tutorials for this album, it hasn't been a smooth ride so far. So I'm just like scared that I'm going to mess it up. But I've prepared myself. Let's see how we go. I'm going to get my pieces in. Okay, I have my pieces ready. I've also got the 2 sheets that I'm wanting to use for decorating this nearby. And we are going to make this out of 3 pieces of cardstock. I've made this before in an album in a smaller version where I could make it out of 1 piece of cardstock. Now, because I'm making it bigger, I'm not able to do it out of 1. That's alright, we'll just work around it. Now, I'm not sure if I really followed the order of the cutting guide exactly, but that doesn't really matter. We have our pieces P, Q and R for this back cover element. And we are going to start with our piece P, which is a large sheet, 8.5 by 10.5 inches. And we're going to make some score lines on here and do some cutting in here. So I have this template that I'm just going to leave here like this. So you can pause the video for your reference if you need to. And then I will talk you through the scoring, and this is also a nice cheat sheet for myself, so that's nice. So I'm going to take this one out of my scoreboard. So I'm going to score here with the long side, so the 10.5 inches is on top, and I will be scoring here at 1.25 and at 9.25. And then I will turn it to the shorter side, which is 8.5, and again we're going to go for 1.25 and 7.25. And then we will also get ourselves a pencil or something that we can use to make a little tick mark. We're going to make our tick marks at here on the short side, so my 8.5 is on top, 2.5 inches and 6 inches. So just a little tick mark so you can see that for yourself, and then turn it around, and then again on the other side of the 8.5 inches we do the same thing, so 2.5 and 6 inches. Yes, then what I will do is get my ruler in, and I might need a little bit of scoring tool here. And you can, maybe I can do it in my scoreboard as well. But what I'm going to start with is I'm going to draw a line on the diagonal, and I will show you after I did it. But this pencil is not working great. I just bought it new. It wasn't cheap, and it's not great, so I'm not happy. From the intersection of the score lines here, I'm going to go to the corner. So I basically marked the line here from the intersection of the score line to the corner of the piece, and I'm going to do that for all 4 of my corners. Okay, once I've done that, I'm just going to place it like this in front of me, and I'm going to mark quickly what I want to cut off so I don't make any mistakes. So on the triangle that is connecting to the long side is what I want to cut off. I hope that makes sense. But I'm gonna get my scissors. And I like to turn actually to the bumpy side, where I'm going to cut on the long side, just on the inside of the score line. So I'm going to cut the score line away up to the intersection, and then I will turn it again because it's easier. So I want to have, this one needs to go away, so I'm going to cut on the diagonal line that I just draw. It's just easy for me as a guideline. And then I will take that one out. So I'm going to do all 4 of those little parts. I'm going to cut away. Okay, once these are all out, it's a little bit easier for me to go back into my scoreboard. And then I don't really need that score tool actually. Oh, it's already lying here. I'm going to, that's why I have that black line. I just made that myself. The tick mark that we made earlier in our scoreboard at the 2.5 and the 6. I'm going to use those as a guideline now. So I want to have that on my score line here. And then I'm going to find here the intersection of my score lines, also on that same score line. So I'm using that black line to line it up, and I'm going to score that diagonal line. So again, I will do that for all 4 sides, and that's once, if you cut it first, then it's a little bit easier to line up that the corner, the intersection of your score lines on your scoreboard as well. And then here. Okay, and that's all the scoring for this piece. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to flip it over where we can see the bumpy side of our score lines, and we are going to start doing some folding. So I'm going to fold on the long side first, nice and easy. And the other side. So that's the easy one. And then for this one, also just fold on those, on the 1¼ inch lines first. And just give those a burnish. And then once we're folded on those lines, we are going to pull back on this score line. And when we're doing that, what we actually want to do is to make sure that this score line that we have here, that is now lined up with the long score line, we want that one to line up with your fold line on this side. So when I pull on this one, I'm not too much focused on my score line that I'm folding on, but more on the line here. I just want to push it where it's lining up with the actual folds. And if we've done all our scoring really neat, that should work. But sometimes it's not completely the case. So just hold it in place where you want it, and then you burnish that actual fold. So I'm trying to put it, so my score line here is now lining up with this line over here. I hope it makes sense. I don't think I'm going to see it, but I'm not sure. And then lastly, we're going to fold that piece that is sticking out in on that fold line and give that a burnish as well. So we'll do the same thing on this side. Again, I'm just pulling back on this score line, but I have my eye on the score line here. Same thing. So this is not folding really neatly because I didn't cut very well here. So I need to be a little bit careful. So take your time on that fold. And then on this score line here. Now, once we fold it on these like this, again, and I guess I'll just take a pen because that pencil is not working really well. I won't see it later. I'm going to just put a little X here on that flap. That's where I'm going to attach my tape or glue, whatever it is that I'm going to use to adhere it later, because later on we will hold this in place and fold the long flap over to stick that down. So this is where my glue will go. But first we can put this to the side. Before we're going to actually adhere everything, we will do some decorating on it, because it's just easier to do it now when it's still, we can still put it flat. Then we have our pieces Q and R, which are 2 flaps. Q is, let me get this out of the way. Q is 8 inches by Q, 8 inches by 3 3/4. And this piece we are going to score with the 3 3/4 inch on top at 3 1/4. And for piece Q is 8 inches by, no, let's get that ruler in the right direction, 4 3/4. And this one we will score with the 4 3/4 inch on top at 4 1/4. And then for both pieces, we are going to place our tape on the bumpy side. And for both of these pieces, I am going to angle that 1/2 inch part. So I'm going to put my scissors just above the score line. And I'm going to angle that 1/2 inch flap. We don't want to cut into the score line. That's not going to look nice. You can even go slightly above the score line if you prefer. And just double checking if they are really 8 inch, because this one seems to be fine. I keep on struggling with getting my measurements exact in the paper trimmer. It looks fine, so we'll see. We'll have a little try. And then for both fold lines, we're just going to fold and burnish on that score line. And what's going to happen is we are going to attach piece Q. It doesn't really matter because we can flip the piece eventually. So like once we are in our folded position, we are looking into the piece basically. I'm going to like attach one flap under the long edge here, and the other one will go on the other side. And this is then eventually will form a closure for this. So we can attach them now. I can also first put some pattern paper on there, which might work a little bit easier on camera to like get the pieces on. So it's up to you if you want to first place your flaps or first your pattern paper. Because I'm working on camera and it's a little bit easier to keep the piece in camera, I'm just going to do it later. So I want to use this sheet on the inside. What we need to keep in mind is that the piece will go into the album in this orientation. So with the longer side from top to bottom. So I'm going to cut my paper for it. But because this has a really nice pattern, I want to try to cut it in a way where it's all like matching. So I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't know what I did with that piece of paper. But I'm going to cut a sheet that will cover this whole part here. And I actually said like this is 1 1/4, these sides. So I'm going to make that 1 1/8 of an inch. So that is 2 1/4 plus what I need for here. And I think I'm gonna do 5 7/8 plus 2 1/4. I think that's what I did in my head earlier on. So that would be that quarter, 8 1/8 of an inch by 10 1/8 of an inch. That's what I need to come to. So I'm going to cut that out of the sheet in this orientation. So 8 1/8 of an inch by 10 1/8 of an inch. So the 10 1/8 of an inch will be the height. So I'm just using my ruler because I want it to be precise. So I'm going to see what happens if I just go from the bottom. In the end, it doesn't really matter. That's the 10 1/8 of an inch. And then 8 1/8 of an inch. So if you have a pattern where it doesn't really matter, it's a lot easier to just cut your pieces to size, but I think this will work. And then what I need to do is, I need my strip. So I'm going to cut 1 1/8 of an inch from both sides of this. So again, I will just use my ruler. So this is 1. So I'm measuring on this side now. 1 1/8 of an inch. So that will be for here. Then I need that also from this side. One 1/8 of an inch. And I will do that also from the top and the bottom. Okay. Now, hopefully I did this correct. Let's get the paper trimmer out of the way for now. And then this should be able to fit in here. Now if I need to cut off a hair of that middle piece to really make it fit, I will. I might have to. That will be alright. It's right now it fits exactly in there. So I will see. First I'm going to focus on the actual strips. So to make it really fit, I might have to cut 1 1/8 of an inch from top and bottom of these long ones as well. So, because what do I need to get here eventually? If I cut off 1 1/8 on both sides, I'll cut off 2 1/4. This is 8. If I cut off 2 1/4 of my 10 1/8 of an... Is this 10 1/8 of an inch? What did I say? Yeah. I will get... Yeah, that should fit. That should work. So I might measure it, or I might just like mark it and then cut it. We'll see. But let's start with this like a bit more complicated shorter strips here. So I think it will make sense for me what goes where, but you can put it like in order next to you. These short strips, those are the ones that we need to focus on first. I'm just going to turn the piece here. We have our score lines here, and our strip needs to go up to the score line that here goes all the way. We don't have to cover this little part there. Up to that score line. So what I need to do is, if I place my piece here where I want it, I need to mark. The score line is here. I can see it. It's probably a bit difficult for you to see. Let's get it really nicely where we want it. And I'm going to mark slightly on the inside of that score line on my pattern paper. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to mark it slightly on the inside of that score line. And then we're going to cut from there to the corner of the pattern paper. So keep your eye on that mark. It's going to be a bit tricky to do that with my scissors. So if I'm not comfortable that I'm going to do that nicely, I'm going to get my paper trimmer in. Now where is that little mark? There. And to the corner. That's one. Let's put that in place. We probably need to cut that a little bit later on. And then the same thing here. So my mark and moved. So this should fit here now in between the score lines. If it doesn't, well, I'm not really happy. I should go a little bit in on that. So I went to the corner, but actually I want to go slightly next to the corner. So, like a little bit more like that. Now hopefully my paper trimmer is going to be forgiving. Use my scissors. It wasn't as forgiving as I was hoping it would be, so I just adjusted it a little bit with the scissors, and here as well. So this is fine, but I need to cut a little bit more of the that's better. Okay, now let's give that another fit. Okay, that's better. You really want to stay in between the score line. Don't go on your score line, because then it doesn't function properly anymore. So I can glue that one down. Now we'll try to make this fit, but as I thought it would, it doesn't really fit. So if I cut off a little bit of the angle, and I'm just going to try it with my scissors. We just want to make sure that it fits in between that score line. And I need a little bit more, and I suggest you cut it off on the diagonal, because that will give you the best result in the end. So don't cut on your straight sides. There we go. And just go with little bits. Don't take off too much in one go. A little hair to make sure that I'm not on that score line. That's better. Okay, I wanna, this is not really neat, so I'm there. So this one can be glued down. So as you see, like maybe I'm just making more of it than it actually is, but I'm really precise and I want that pattern to continue. That makes it a little bit more difficult. But it's just so much easier to do it while you are able to put it flat. Okay. Just try to hold it flat. And just even it out as best as I can. So I will have to do the same thing with the other short side, same process. And then I'll probably glue this middle part. The ones on the side, we're gonna wait until we've constructed it. Okay, so I will do the same thing with this little strip here on this side, and I am able to glue this one down. Now it might be that I need to cut off like a really slight hair to make it fit in between my score lines. Just make sure you don't go over that score line so it can really function. So don't be afraid to adjust if you need to, because otherwise you're going to regret it. And then we need to repeat this on the outside as well to make our life easy. So I'll need to have a look at the pattern paper for that, and then I'll be back with the rest of this construction. All right, I did this inside parts. I indeed cut it off. I cut off a little hair of this inside part. Now, like I said, I'm going to do the short sides on the other side. That's going to be the outside of our little element. So with my second sheet of pattern paper, I cut off a strip that was 1 1/8 of an inch from the top and cut them to 5 7/8 in length. So with one strip I could do, it's solid. I don't have to worry about pattern for now. And I'm going to repeat the same thing right here. So the same process as I did on the inside. I'm just going to mark where I need to cut it. I will cut it and glue it in place. So just on the inside of the score lines, which are a bit harder to see. And I've learned that I just need to mark a little bit on the inside of the score line here as well, because we don't want to cut exactly to the corner. We need to cut a little bit on the inside of the corner. And yeah, I just like to do it with my paper trimmer. The piece is for me personally slightly too big to do it with my scissors comfortably. I will do it on the little corner piece later, but for now I like to do it like this. And then that one. And I need to remove some of the pencil marks that I made. And then with these ones, I'm going to place the straight lines like on the inside of the paper. And then again mark like on the other side of the score line where I need to cut off on the diagonal. And this time I will do it with my scissors because it's becoming a little bit smaller, but still. And then it will fit there. So especially now because there's no pattern, that doesn't matter. But even on the inside when there was pattern, I still think this is the best way to go, because there is space between the two pieces, that it doesn't really matter that that piece of pattern is missing in between. I hope, yeah, that makes sense, because in reality that little piece is missing. So yes, okay, see, so this is a little bit of a better way of going with marking where to cut. Now I really need to remove my pencil tick marks there. So these are the tick marks that we made in the scoreboard, and then I can glue this down. Okay, so I will do the same thing with this little strip. I will do that in a minute. I'm going to show you that I'm going to, on this large part here on the outside, I'm going to put double-sided tape, because I'm going to attach that into the album. This is the part that I'm going to glue down. So again, making sure that I stay in between the score lines. Don't go over. If you are making your piece removable, you don't have to do this step. Of course, you can decide if you're going to put your magnets and then cover it with pattern paper, or don't cover it with pattern paper. Yeah, depends on what you prefer, right? And if you have enough paper. But it's easy to prepare it now while it can lay flat for adhering it into the album. So this is done. Now for me it's really important to keep my direction in mind because my paper is directional. The thing is going to, the element is going to open up to the sides, and my spine and my hinge with the page is going to be on the left hand side. So I'm going to place the shorter flap on the left hand side, and then the wider flap will open up to the outside of the album. That's what I prefer, so that's how I am going to do it. What I was thinking, because we have that little angle here and there, I might angle these flaps as well before I attach them. Just to get some cohesiveness in place. You can also use a corner rounder. So I'm marking 3/8 of an inch from the corner inwards, and then also on the short side up. And like I've said before, if you have a corner punch, oh, it's so much easier, but I don't have it right now. So I will mark both flaps and then cut them all at one go. And it's never exact this way, but that's all right. Okay, keep the direction in mind. Let's start with the short flap, which is Q. So that's going to go on my left hand side. I'm going to give it a dry fit, making sure that it's not sticking out. And it is, which means that I am going to adjust that, because I really don't want that sticking out. And it's because we have been cutting that is the case. And I might do the same thing on this side straight away. Which means I should have done this before, because then I also have to do that angle again. It's alright, there are worse things that can happen. So just I want this to be straight, of course. Little hair. So I made my tick mark on my score line, which is fine, but it's a little bit trickier to line that up, but I've got it. So two things. I need to re-angle that 1/2 inch here. So from my score line, that's the easy one. I did that here on this side. And then I also have to look at that angle that I just made. On this side. Ooh, that's tricky. I really should have done that before I really should have corrected the length before I angled it, but I'm just using the little line on my work surface to line up the piece and line that up with my ruler. 1, 2, 3. That's not a lot, that's fine. And then I will do the same thing here. I just use a grid on my work surface. 1, 2, 3. So that's here. And we just recut that. I kind of didn't cut that straight. That was like, I curved it a little bit. I wasn't too sure, I guess. That's better. And then on this side it was, I guess here. Some extra steps we got there. So on this side is where this one will go. So that's better. Okay, my pokey tool. I feel like I want to remove the tape backing and put some wet glue there to make sure that I can line it up the way I want to. I'm never as good as placing things behind as I am as placing them on top. Again, when we do this, you go up to your score line. So we want to line up top and bottom. And up to the score line, where we do not stick it on the score line, because that score line needs to function. So take your time in whatever way works for you. There we go, that's one. And then I will do the same thing here on this side. I will just give it another dry fit before. Yes, I still see a little bit of the pencil mark, just making sure. What did I do with my thingy there? So I'm just putting a little bit of wet glue on top of my tape so that I can lift it up if I'm not happy with the placements. So when I'm keeping this up a little bit, it helps me to guide it to the score line. So I'm sorry if you can't really see on camera. And then when I think I've got it, I will lay it flat to make sure. Yep. So just make sure that you want to be able to do this without any resistance. If you are able to do that, then you are in the right spot with your piece. Okay, so now this is like the whole piece constructed. We are at the point where we could glue it. So once we've glued this will go on top. I can put pattern paper now here as well. So I don't think it really matters if you do it now or once we are done. I need to think about how I want to cut my paper. That's a little bit the thing. So what I might do is cut my pieces to go here. I'm going to cut a little bit through him. So what if I start on this side? What will happen? That's probably better. Hopefully I can cut just before his head. Let me measure. So these are the struggles with the patterns. Like I need 4 1/8 of an inch plus 1 1/8 of an inch. So that is 5 1/4. I'm just going to cut straight into his head. What if we just do it from this side? Oh, that would work. And then we just flip it around. So this will go on this side and the other part will go here. Yes, and then I will probably cut it to height first, so I can maybe use scraps on the inside. So the height should be 7 7/8. Well, if you do 1/8 of an inch, 7 3/4, but I'm going slightly over 7 3/4, and then I will cut the pieces to size. So I have this scrap piece that I can hopefully use, because I still need to think about some of the things on the inside. Then, like I said, I need 5 1/4 for here, but I can also go in 2 pieces. So I needed 4 1/8 of an inch first. And I'm just using my ruler because that's for me at this point the most precise way of measuring and cutting. 4 1/8. And I don't mind, I just cut a little bit through the board, that's all right. And then 1 1/8, and I'm turning my piece so I can measure on this side. That's 1 1/8. So let's start with this. So this will go here. No cutting. Oh, yeah, I need to make the angles, of course. So I can glue this one down. I'm just going to lay it flat on the work surface here. Now I still can. So that one will go there. And then for this one I need to angle the piece first, so just turning it however works for me, placing it where I want it, and again I'm just marking with my pencil where I need to cut my angle. Let's see if I can find it because it's not very visible. There. Yep. So it saves so much time if you don't have to do the inking of the edges. I don't mind doing it, but it's a real time saver right now. So this one is on now. I need to keep in mind that I want to keep this closed somehow. So I need to grab some magnets. I can do it like this. I can just place my magnets here for now. So let's get some magnets. So when I place magnets, I always make sure that I'm not too close to my fold lines and the edges. So I'm just going to go in the middle. I'm going to do 2 sets. And this is going to be fun to get this off. Oh, not too bad. So I'll probably go somewhere there. And somewhere there. Now I always like to give it a little bit of extra security, or even though the tape on these magnets, I think these are basic gray magnets. Are they basic gray? Is that what it's called? I think so. That is pretty good adhesive on there, but I just like to secure that just a little bit more. And then I will place that one on top. I'm going to peel that tape backing off as well, I hope. Now we need to keep this a little bit flat, so that's not easy. That's why I was thinking maybe I'll construct it first, then place it down. I'm not going to push too hard, too flat on it, because we want to be able to put photos on the inside. So it will, if it bulks up, you still want the magnets to attach. And now they are on this side. We'll secure those as well. Now the only thing that I hope is, because we have scrappies here. Oh yeah, that's gonna work. I just need to make sure that I don't have an edge really close to the magnets. So I'll probably use a combination of these two to cover this part here. We'll see how I'm going to do it, but oh, and I also need to cover that part, right? Well, we'll see. We'll make it work somehow. Somehow we'll make it work. First I have this, and I'm gonna go from this side, because otherwise I'm going to cut in, I'm going to dehead him. I don't want that. So I need 3 1/8 of an inch, if I'm correct. Yes, and 1 1/8 of an inch. So this will go here and this will go there. Same thing as I just did with the other flap. Just lying it flat to make it a little easier. Ah, you know what? I'm going to place the bigger one first. For a reason. Where's my pencil? I'm getting a little too messy here. Okay, lining it up. Marking the angle. Okay, so we will remove this tape backing here. And this is what you get if you don't burnish it. No, not always, but sometimes. It's harder to get the tape backing off if you didn't give it a proper burnish. I don't think I did that, so again, wet glue. Fill this in a little bit, and I always like to do this as well, just so I can lift it if I'm not happy with the placement. I'm going a bit closer to the score line here. I think I could have done with the hair shorter on my piece. And when I'm burnishing, because I have the magnets here, first I need this one. I am gonna go around the edges of the piece. I know that the magnet is there. I'm gonna go in the middle. I'm not gonna go all around the magnet, because then your magnet will really show through your paper. So I always like to stay away with the burnishing a little bit around that area. I'm gonna go a little closer to the score line here because of the pattern. That's why I did this one first, because here there's a little bit of a gap there, and I could have prevented that if I was a little bit more thoughtful about how I was sticking everything down, but that's all right. Okay, so we have all that pattern paper in place. This one we can't do until it's constructed. This one we can, but I need to have a little bit of a think about how can I make it all work. Because we're gonna have this strip over here. And then I can have this here with a bit of a scrap piece. Like, the unfortunate thing is that this is really directional, so I can't use it here. But I can have, like, fill it up with a little bit of this. And then we have this, which is, the pattern is there, but it doesn't bother me if it's like in this direction, that I can put here with whatever is left of this. So we can make that work. What I have here, I think that's a nice space to fill that up. I don't really want to adjust anything about this. So I'm going to glue this one down, and then I will measure what I need next to it. I was worried for a little bit, like, I wasn't sure, well, worried is a big word, but I wasn't sure if 2 sheets of 12 by 12 pattern paper was going to be enough to cover all the areas. But I'm happy to know now that it is enough. Because if I was in need to find another pattern with this, that would have been difficult for me personally, but we would have made it work somehow. But I'm just happy that I don't have to make it work. It's just working. So I have, that's what I thought, 3/4 of an inch here. So I'm going to cut a 5/8 inch strip of my scrap piece. Yep. Nice. Just a little gap in between the papers. And we have that in place. And then, of course, the other side. I'm thinking I'm going to do, if I have this one on this side, and then a strip here. Yep, so I'm going to cut this one to height, and then we'll measure what we need of the blue after this is in place. So I have about an inch between the cut edge of my pattern paper and the magnet. I'm happy with that. You can go a little less, like half an inch would be enough as well. You just don't want to have that cut edge of your pattern paper too close to where a magnet is, because it's just hard to get that all neatly, give it a nice finished look without have it really showing that there is a magnet there. Okay, let's measure this last piece here. It's an inch that I have, so I'm going to cut it to about 7/8 of an inch. And now that we are like making a little bit of a puzzle with our pieces of pattern paper to fill this up with the 2 sheets of 12 by 12. And now that I need to do like putting the strips there and filling it up, I'm always happy that I already did it in the other parts of the project, because then it doesn't look, because it's happening throughout the whole album, it doesn't look like, oh, you were running out of papers and you needed to adjust. No, it's just part of the design. Now, to make my life a little bit easier, I am going to just line up my pattern paper here so the pattern is lining up the way I like it. And I'm just going to make a little tick mark here on where I'm going to got it, and I will do the same thing for this side, so I don't have to measure with my ruler and everything in my paper trimmer. So I'm just trying to follow the line of the pattern paper next to it. I hope I can still see that in a minute. Okay, so that is good. We're not gluing this right now, but it is to size. It was easier to do it now. We are going to construct it now. So I think what I will do is just get a little bit of double-sided adhesive that I'm going to place on here, and then put some wet glue with that, making sure that I'm not cutting too big pieces. It's just so there is a little bit there. Okay, let's start with this short side. There's my pokey tool here, some wet glue. So I'm going to remove the left hand side, the top one, the bottom one, and the other side we're gonna leave for now. We are going to add some wet glue for some good coverage here. Okay, we're going to hold this flat. So that might be a bit tricky because the piece is a bit bigger. I'm lucky enough to have pretty long fingers. And now we are going to fold this part over and glue that down. And we want to hold this for a little bit. Give your glue time to dry. So my art glitter glue dries pretty quick. Not all glues dry as quick, so just make sure don't pull on it too much just yet. Okay, so we can leave it like this and prepare the other side if we want to. And then the same thing. We're going to try our best to keep this flat. And then get this one to come over. Now I feel a little bit, no, that's not, I really need to do it like this. It's okay, just, it's a little bit harder to make sure that everything is having contacts. Now in the meantime, I'm not really happy with how this corner looks, so I'm just going to cut that away a little bit. The rest is fine. And then I'm going to carefully show you, but like I said, don't pull on it too much. Basically what we also want to do, I forgot, is to fold back on these fold lines. Just give that a burnish as well. And that also goes for this one here. So just pull back on that one and give that a burnish. We want to train it to be able to go in both directions. So now when we open it, we kind of pull open this box pocket. Now you can't fill it up all the way to the top, right? Because then it's no longer able to close. But we can like throw photos in here and then close it. I've done it before, like I said in the beginning, and it's just a lovely element. So I wanted to repeat it just on a larger format. So this is nice. We can put full-size photos in here. I think even 7x5 photos will fit in here. Yeah, they should. We can decorate this a little bit more if you want to with some fun embellishments. Oh, we've got the strips, of course, which is a bit tricky, but now we can place these strips that we've prepared on the side of our box, and with that we are going to hide the construction there. Oh, I almost forgot. I would just have put it away like that. So some glue. And I'm just going to lift it up. I'm sorry if it's hard to get in camera, but we need to do this in a way where we can see what we're doing, right? And just before you attach your glue, just make sure for yourself that you really fit in there. If you need to cut it a hair shorter, then you do that, of course. Probably my other bone folder will work a little bit better here, but it's alright, I have this close by. And then the same thing with this one. So I'm just turning it around, just making sure that the pattern is in the right direction in my case. It's lining up nicely. Nice. So calm patterns on here, which I kind of like after the kind of busy patterns in the rest of the album. But we can, yeah, make this more fun as we go, right? So, and it will close like that, and we can attach it in our back cover. But I will probably do that in the start of the next video. So in the next video we will, this is the page, this is the front cover. I will start with attaching our pieces into the cover. I'm going to work on an element on the front cover, and I'm going to prepare some photo mats, etc. to put in there. I still have like a few places that I need to decorate, but now that I have my pattern papers left over, I can really have a look at, okay, what will go here with the rest of these papers that I already have there, so it's a little bit easier for me. Yeah, so this is that back cover box. I don't know what to call it, but I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to download your free cutting guide, of course, on my Ko-fi web shop. The link is down below in the description box. It's a free download. And yeah, I'd like to see you in the next one, which will be the last one for this project. I would like to say finally, because it's taken me a long time, but you won't notice too much of that, of course. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'd like to see you in the next one. Bye bye.